As the Second Sino-Japanese War raged in China in 1937, a detachment of soldiers were tasked with guarding the Shanghai International Settlement. However, they had to go across the countryside in order to get there. When they get to their goal, the side of the town that has been wrecked, first thing they encounter. Young Xiao Hubi informs his uncle that his brother has died, and the platoon then starts debating how to proceed. Duan Wu, his brother, has ventured out to investigate the whereabouts of the Japanese troops. He learns that there are Japanese soldiers nearby, and they notice and they charge after him to kill the remaining Chinese soldiers. Duan Wu takes his brother and uncle with him so they can flee by sneaking through the abandoned buildings. When it gets dark, they arrive in the nicer, more populous area of Shanghai, only to discover nationalist soldiers shooting deserters. They search for another unit to join in order to cross safely because of fear of being called deserters, and eventually a group to follow. These soldiers are also deserters, but at least they are being sent to a warehouse in Shanghai where they are needed rather than being put to death. The Sihang storehouse is the final remaining building between Shanghai and the Japanese army. Although Lieutenant Colonel Xie Jinyuan warns Commander Zhu Shenzhong that they would need all the assistance they can get, Zhu Shenzhong is unhappy to have deserters working for him and wants to kill them. The colonel assigns the newcomers to work on the fortifications outside. Duan Wu seizes the opportunity to speak with the colonel and clarifies that he and his family are not deserters but were left behind. An alarm sounds as the gang is working outside, but there is nothing to be concerned about. Just a few Chinese refugees are traveling to the international Shanghai colony, it's not the Japanese. In an attempt to join them and enter the safety of the settlement, Duan Wu's uncle sneaks out of the warehouse. However, at the gates, he is denied entry since he is wearing an army uniform, and soldiers are not permitted to be there. The troops enjoy the lovely singing from a woman in a building across the river while they are back in the warehouse. On the roof of the warehouse, Hubi makes friends with Xiao Chui, the only other boy in the group who is his age. The troops are startled to discover a stable with a white horse remaining within it when they go through the hole they discovered in the wall that was concealed under a number of boxes. But as soon as they open the stall door, the horse panics and bolts. Fortunately, Chui shoots the horse down with a whistle. The Japanese attempted to take over the warehouse, but it was a trap. Because of the element of surprise, the Chinese army is able to ambush them and defeat them. However, because Duan Wu's party is still regarded as deserters, they are not permitted to engage in combat. Instead, they are locked in a room when one of them makes an attempt to flee, he is shot. Duan Wu doesn't shoot POWs, unlike the other soldiers. The Japanese troops, who are still present outside the warehouse, counterattack by shooting gas bombs through the windows. All of the soldiers then sprint for cover while grabbing towels to pee on and covering their faces to avoid being gassed. Duan Wu is unable to relieve himself out of fear and anxiety, but happily another cop lends him his mask. As the building's gas leak spreads throughout the town, people start to panic and rush inside any building they can find. They also start to push each other around in the streets. Once the gas clears from the Sihang Warehouse, Duan Wu is unintentionally knocked over and plunges into an undiscovered underground canal. He makes the decision to look around a little and finds an entry that can be utilized to enter and exit the warehouse covertly. A Chinese journalist named Mr. Feng Xingwen contacts the Japanese army in the meantime and offers to sell information about the soldiers inside the warehouse. Japanese Colonel Kanu Iso is pleased with this and starts formulating a new strategy. In the next scene, we see the horse flee and run through the streets. The onlookers observe it and interpret it as a good omen. Some Chinese troops that were captured by the Japanese are currently being displayed on poles. The Japanese demand that the soldiers in the warehouse submit. When Xiao Hubi learns that one of the bodies is his uncle, he is distraught. His group has gathered to kill the few Japanese POWs. The deserters are reluctant to do this, but Commander Shenzhong shoots one of them and threatens to harm the others if they don't comply. The prisoners are first shot by the military. Duan Wu is unable to force himself to act even when threatened. One of his superiors grabs Duan Wu and tells him the Japanese killed his uncle in order. Later, a furious Duan Wu pulls the trigger. Chao and Hubi share a special snack at dusk. While Duan Wu argues to his superiors that because he and his brother are only farmers, they should be allowed to leave. Duan Wu chooses to go back to the subterranean canal after having his request denied in order to try to find a way out. He is joined by 2 more deserters, but as they leave, they come across Japanese troops breaking through the same tunnel. The group waits for the Japanese to arrive while submerged against the wall. However, they hold their breath for so long that one of their buddies passes away. When civilians observe Duan Wu and his last remaining companion hurrying for the exit, they pretend they are not fleeing and instead inform everyone that the Japanese army is attacking. While the residents raised an alert, the cops turned on their lights at the warehouse. Such a warning is a blessing since it causes the Chinese army to awaken and swiftly strengthen their fortifications, giving them a win with little casualties. The locals outside hailed Duan Wu and his buddy as heroes, even encouraging 3 young schoolboys to enlist. However, after they return inside, Colonel Xie Jinyuan continues to reprimand them. They are sent outside to strengthen their defenses. The next day, as additional Japanese troops get near, locals start to worry once more. Even though he doesn't gamble himself, Mr. Fang uses his intelligence to accept wagers from foreigners on the outcome of the impending fight. The Japanese eventually got near enough to the warehouse a few hours later for an attack. Soon, the troops are so overrun that they must give guns to the deserters, including the brothers and schoolboys, so they can fight. Sihub is doing his best to sneak around and survive, however, when he peeks out a window and notices the white horse running by. He can't help telling Chewie about it. This causes Chewie to try to look at the horse too. But as soon as his head sticks out, he gets shot by the enemy sniper. The Chinese soldiers' sacrifices move the citizens across the river, who decide to assist by sending a volunteer squad to deliver supplies while hiding under a Nazi banner. A handful of them are killed by the Japanese sniper, causing them to lose their phone line, but another civilian gives his life by running over the bridge and rolling the wire over as he is being shot. Now that the warehouse is connected to the city, when asked how many soldiers are still present, Colonel Xie Jinyuan decides to give the population hope by responding with 800 rather than the correct number of 452. Mr. Fang is one of the citizens who crossed over under the flag and started recording and photographing the soldiers. Because he is afraid and needs to see his wife, Duan Wu's companion grabs Mr. Fang's coat in an effort to get away. Duan Wu, however, stops him just before he is about to shoot him. Commander Shenzhong gives Hubie a drink as he laments Chewie's passing. Hubie ultimately takes the entire bottle. Everyone in the city is willing to work together to collect donations as he observes the city light since they have witnessed the battle sacrifices made in order to prevent another bloodbath like the one on the bridge. The casino owner surprises everyone by giving out a flag through the warehouse's windows, and a young girl swims across the river to deliver the flag to the troops. When Duan Wu spots her, he throws a rope through the window to assist her in entering, which prompts a sniper to fire at him from cover. Hubie now views him as a hero despite the fact that the bullet just missed his throat. Colonel Xie Jinyuan then tells his soldiers that the general wants them to defend the warehouse for 2 more days in order to garner international attention. The troops get into a heated disagreement, and despite the fact that the opinions are divided, the majority decides that they should raise the flag. The deserters receive praise from the civilians when they are given the responsibility of hoisting the flag on the warehouse's roof the following morning. The Japanese army launches an immediate attack, focusing all of their fighter planes on the flag. The Chinese soldiers continue to hold onto the flag even though they are losing many soldiers per second. They get a notice warning that this could be interpreted as an act of war by other countries because there are foreigners present. Eventually, the banner is torn down, and the Chinese decide to end their assault. To avoid making pointless sacrifices, they hoist the flag once more. Fortunately, the Japanese start to withdraw when the British object, and Duan Wu starts to rejoice at their victory. Before he realizes he has been shot, with his last breath, he asks Mr. Fang to take a picture of him for his brother later. While Hubie is once again watching the city and grieving another loss. The white horse shows up and allows him to pet it as comfort. That night Colonel Xie Jinyuan reenacts an old Chinese tale of war with a map and a puppet to remind his troops of the importance of what they are protecting. The following day the British put a Red Cross flag outside the settlement to mark it as a safe zone. Colonel Esau comes over in a black horse to talk, so Colonel Xie Jinyuan meets him by riding the white horse. It turns out Esau will be replaced by another colonel soon, and he knows the Chinese will receive orders to retreat. So for the sake of their honor and to be seen less as a failure, he requests one last battle. Colonel Xie Jinyuan accepts and rushes back to the warehouse to get the troops ready. Hiding under an English flag, the commissioner comes over to give an order to retreat to the settlement at midnight. Colonel Xie Jinyuan disagrees, believing that if they keep fighting, they might inspire the international community to lend a hand. It is preferable to accept defeat, according to the higher-ups. It may not be honorable, but the nation has already gone through enough hardship. Colonel Xie Jinyuan is outraged by this because he believes that by following these instructions, all of the soldiers' efforts will be meaningless. When darkness falls, the searchlights are switched off to allow the soldiers to retreat across the bridge. A small group will need to remain behind to serve as cover while Mr. Fang collects photos and letters from this group with the assurance that he will deliver them to their families. As the soldiers crossed the bridge, residents ran for the streets. Hubie chooses to remain behind and join the defense. In order to light up the area and make it easier for them to attack the soldiers on the bridge, the Japanese quickly turn on their own searchlights and fire a flare. In an effort to slow the Japanese down, the group of volunteers leaves the warehouse and walks up to the camp, but they are swiftly shot. Additionally, civilians made an effort to assist by offering medical supplies or firing from the balconies of their homes. Only a small number of Chinese soldiers reach the area where the locals are helping them because most of them are gradually murdered, including Colonel Xie Jinyuan. The White Horse emerges from the warehouse's wreckage in the last shot through the gates in contemporary Shanghai. These ruins are still standing as a reminder of the sacrifices made to make China the primary theater of the anti-fascist fight in Asia. If you liked seeing the video, please become a channel subscriber.